In 1996, close to 1 million people were killed in Rwanda. The genocide, which occurred due to a long-time feud between two ethnic groups, the Hutus and Tutsis, was responsible. It did not only take lives, but it destroyed the land and economic growth of many communities. Last fall, I lived in one of those communities. But first, I spent 2 months traveling in Europe, basking in endless bread and spaghetti, fancy city tours, and train rides that span the many beautiful mountains and waterways. I was living large, as they say. Then I moved to Nyamyumba, this tiny village in Rwanda, consisting of only banana trees, dirt roads, small houses, and rolling hills, the kind of place I was completely unfamiliar with. But you know what? I stayed open-minded and ended up befriending the kindest people I've ever met. It ended up being my favorite place on my 3-month tour of the world. Nyamyumba may have been perfect to me, but the people had seen its better days. Unfortunately, after the genocide, the people here began to struggle exponentially. They no longer had the resources, the opportunities to prosper. They needed help. A group of friends in Switzerland grew aware of Nyamyumba's need for help and stepped up to the plate. They established a nonprofit called Mabawa in order to get Nyamyumba back on its feet again. Mabawa works to accomplish a specific set of goals in the village in order to create sustainable social change. These goals are based on improving education, housing, health, income, agricultural practices, and entrepreneurship. So far, Mabawa has built new houses and schools for the village. It has taught the people how to successfully grow certain crops like potatoes. It has funded creative entrepreneurial endeavors, such as a new local bakery. It has provided people with livestock, such as pigs and cows. Mabawa is doing all that it can to create sustainability in Nyamyumba. They are not introducing anything that may cause reliance or dependence on other nations.
I think that Mabawa was really the first stable schooling that they had there, and so when they went in, they built the schoolhouses, and they've been providing teachers to these kids who probably wouldn't otherwise have access to a good education. And bringing us in, they were able to show the kids, I guess, the surrounding world, that it was bigger than just their community, and as well was good for us because we were able to experience other people and work with these communities.
I think we went in thinking that as far as teaching them, they were going to speak pretty good English, and that was like totally not what ended up happening. So that was a big barrier, but they were super like excited to see us, super eager to learn as much as we could without translators. And they were younger than we expected to, but they always had so much energy and just like willingness to learn despite the difficulties.
Well, the first day that we showed up to class, I think we were all kind of nervous. We didn't really know what to expect, and we got there, and all the kids were outside of the schoolhouse, all there to greet us, like shaking our hands, so excited to be there, and it was just really cool to be welcomed because it seemed like there were almost 100 kids out there all being there excited for us. And then every day when we were all walking home after school, all the kids would walk with us and hold our hands, and it was always really fun because you could tell the kids were really excited that we were there.
My favorite parts of the day were during recess when we would just go out and play, and we would always try to like teach them games, but the most fun part was when they would teach us like their dances or their games, and it was really fun like seeing some of the other like teachers like our group play with them and do their fun stuff. It was really fun.
I think a lot of people don't realize sort of the conditions that these kids are living in, and not only that, but that they don't have the access to this quality education. When we were there, we did get to talk to some of the teachers about how it was impossible to get teachers in the region because the good quality teachers wanted to go to more developed places where they could get a better salary, so the teachers that they could afford at Mabawa and in Nyamyumba weren't going to be the same quality that other places were getting. And so it's important because these students shouldn't be forgotten and they should have the same opportunities as everyone else.
I think just because, like I was saying, that they wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity for education and whatnot without Mabawa. And just like our time there, we saw a lot of impact on the kids and ourselves. And so I think having more people help them out will create it to be sustainable for them.
Mabawa was definitely one of the smaller NGOs I've seen, but because they were focused on one community and they had like such a hyper focus and they lived within the community, I think they really got to have a very hands-on and integrated experience with their community. They really knew what they needed and each person who was there and who they were helping, and it wasn't just throwing money at some people. They were really being able to be there and do the things that the people really needed.
Never would I have thought I would spend 5 weeks in Africa, even more so a tiny village that is very cut off from the rest of the world, but it ended up being the best 5 weeks of my life. I went to Africa to teach, but ended up learning more than I could have ever imagined. I learned to stay humble, to be thankful for all that I have, to appreciate the little things, to live in the now, to not live on the web. If you decide to help and support Mabawa, you are helping and supporting the most deserving people. And if you decide to actually travel to Nyamyumba to get directly involved in Mabawa's projects, you'll end up learning and gaining a lot yourself. Be sure to visit mabawa.org for more information and to get involved.